The Order of Light presents We Are the Disclosure, Episode 18, with our guest, James B. Lindsay, as we explore the extraterrestrial phenomenon. Now is the time for those with experiences to speak. We are not waiting for the disclosure. We are the disclosure.
Hello, everyone. I'm Robert Earl White.
Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Miota.
With our special guest, James Lindsay. Hello, James.
Hello, Josh. Hello, Robert. Hello, everybody.
Hey, James. Hi, everyone. And together,
we are the disclosure. Welcome, everyone. I'm super excited about tonight's episode of We Are the Disclosure because tonight's guest, James Lindsay, is a good friend of mine that goes way back to the beginning of everything I'm doing now. We were friends. He's good friends with Jeff Crawford from episode 10 of We Are the Disclosure. We've known each other for a while. And he's had some incredible experiences. He's had a very powerful journey, and some of the wisdom that James has back in the day when we were talking, and how his spirituality was growing, and he was manifesting orbs in photographs, and they were coming around him, and he was on Facebook posting these things, and we would watch him on live, and you would start seeing things like CE5. Absolutely amazing, and he's been a part of the Order of Light community for a very long time, and it's a pleasure to have you here, James. We are so stoked to hear your story. Pleasure to be here. So if you can, just tell us a little bit about yourself before we start to get into the hot and sticky spiritual journey that you've been down, for sure.
It kind of starts off hot and sticky, okay?
The only way to be, buddy.
Yeah, all my life, I've always known that we are not alone. And it's just been a very deep curiosity. Even as a young boy, I would stare at the sun as long as I can and just wonder, what is going on? Like, where are they? I know we're not alone. So, throughout my life, when I reached about 14 years old, I started looking into just different religions like Wicca, different aspects of spirituality, and really started kind of just learning anything I can. I was going to a bookstore in Buffalo, New York called Curious Goods, and I had been going there for many, many years before I had an amazing experience. I was 14 when I first started going to that store, but when I turned about 20, I went to that store one day and I picked up a book just because of how thick it was. And I was like, what could be in this book? And this book was called The Psychic Explorer, written by a man named V. Van Dam. And I read the back of the book, and it talked about how he was standing on another planet, and he looked around trying to locate amongst the stars, and then he thought about Mars. Next thing you know, a gray tube, he was traveling, and next thing you know, he was standing on Mars. So I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Let me see what this book about. So I opened it and read the first couple of pages, eventually bought the book. It's about a man who learned how to leave his body consciously, and after 20 years of exploring the universe, he decided to write this book. So I took the book home on October 12th, 1995, read the first few pages, and said, for the heck of it, well, let me try this. I've never heard of it. Let me just try it. I laid down, closed my eyes, and tried to leave my body. Well, when I woke up, I was floating in this living light, and I was strumming an invisible guitar. And the music I was playing was the most incredible feeling of love. And it felt like the love would get stronger as I would progress the three chords I was playing. And I remember feeling this love reach to a certain point, and then I stopped playing, and I could see the music going away from me. and the music went like a wave of light into the shimmering light, and then the light produced a wave that came back. And when that wave touched me, I heard the most beautiful music, almost like the sound of my soul. And all that love rose to this oneness, and the light shifted to this white light. And I remember being totally conscious in this state, thinking pencils, pens, crayons, dogs, everything being a part of this light. And I slowly just woke up. After that, I left college and started studying this book.
What a beautiful
Wow.
illustration. What a beautiful way to describe frequency and vibration and the power of light and love through a musician's eye. Now, James, are you a musician?
Yes, yes, I'm a musician. I play I play guitar, bass, drums, keyboards, all that.
Wow. So that's, there's a lot of power in that, especially the frequency and you being able to see these frequencies and understanding that that's part of the oneness within the entire universe. It's that point of realization. Is that what you would say? Was that the point?
Oh yeah, that was a moment where it was my first spiritual experience, and it really grounded me into that higher plane, to where everything that I wondered about became a knowing. Like I knew that there is something that exists that is definitely amazing. And I'm like, this is real. I couldn't believe it. I just started studying the book and reading, and having out of body experiences I started having.
Wow. And how old were you when you started to have these astral projection? Is that what it is, James?
Well, yeah,
So
that first experience I would consider astral projection. Now, from the Psychic Explorer, he tends to say astral projection is like that experience I just described, where you wake up on a higher dimension. Whereas I kind of feel like a lot of people confuse it with out of body experiences when you wake up and you're just in your bedroom. It could be labeled astral projection, but to me, astral projection would go to a higher dimension where that would just be an out of body experience. But there's really no really like categories when it comes to this.
it's a thin line, no doubt
Right,
about it.
right,
And
right.
and how old were you when you started, this realization hit you?
20 years old.
20 years old. Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible. And Josh, do
Hey,
you have
hey,
any questions?
James. Yeah. How long did it take for you to project yourself after reading the book?
Well, I did it the first day, and I started doing it night after night. After I was just fascinated by this subject, so I'd never heard of it before, and I just started doing it. I would wake up and find myself floating in my room, at looking at the ceiling, and I would turn in the air at first and see myself sleeping, and get so excited that I would wake up. And so I had to learn to control myself and relax myself, so the more I was reading this book, the more I was awakening to different out of body experiences, and just spontaneously having these experiences out of the body and waking up.
Wow. And
That's awesome.
when you had, these experiences, was there a point in your childhood where you had anything slightly off or out of explanation, or did it only start happening when you were 20 and you picked this up and you started really to seek, or did you have odds and ends happen to you when you were a child?
Right. The only two occurrences that I remember as a child that were, one time I was walking home from school during a blizzard, and the winds were really strong, and I felt like the winds were strong enough where I could fly, and I actually jumped in the air, put my feet up, and was flying for a second, and then I kind of had almost lost it and went down. It could have been the wind. Okay, it could have been the wind, but
It could have been,
Right?
but
but
so,
so
It could have been a lot of things too, you know, especially
Right,
in the spiritual realm, bleeding over into here, how we obtain these things. So
right.
now one thing I want to talk about and a little, you know, backstory. So James and I, we met after, you know, contacting on Facebook, and I would see his photographs, and he was doing a lot of these meditations. And as you heard, it started off as these astral projections, these out of body experiences, etc. After studying, practicing, more importantly, not just reading this book, you were practicing this book. And we would love to hear more how about, like, how did you go about, you know, progressing that to the point that by time we met, you were taking photos of yourself with energy orbs shooting out of you, floating around you. Some photographs you sent to me, that one that I love, that looks like some sort of bird, beaked extraterrestrial with red little knobs on. I've never seen anything
Oh yeah.
like it. These dimensional beings, these astral beings that somehow you're able to capture in these photos. I haven't done it yet, but it's absolutely incredible. And not just that, the orbs flashing in the sky, UFOs, all that CE5. So if you could, James, could you go over some of the you know, as you went on with the spiritual journey, how did things progress and what took you to the point of, you know, getting to that point where you could just manifest these things?
Right. So when I first started having these out-of-body experiences, it started off as just me, waking up in my room and thinking, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And, a couple of times I'd think of a violin and it would appear and start playing. I think of a guitar, it would appear in the air. So I was just playing like almost like a child with the astral realm, knowing that I'm in control. And so eventually, as I started reading the book, it started talking. I read this one point in the book where it said that it was called external charging. And it said that as I was reading it, it said that sometimes advanced beings will come and assist a novice astral projector just to show you that it's real. But then after that, it's up to you to duplicate the feelings you had during that experience for your next projections. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I was like, okay. So I didn't think nothing of it. I just went to sleep. And I was awoken in the middle of night, laying in the bed. And I wasn't aware that I was out of the body because I was laying in bed, but I was aware that something in my room was not from this world. And there was no other way. I didn't see it, but I felt it. And it literally felt like a billion years of experiences right here, or it literally it scared me. And so I'm laying in bed,
Did
and
it feel ancient, would you say? Like just something so
yeah,
beyond anything you could comprehend to the point where it's terrifying?
right. It was just different, and it was like space presence. Like there's no doubt about it, space presence. And I was laying in bed, and I was and I could hear or feel a ship humming above the house. But anyway, I'm laying in the fetal position, and I feel something's in bed with me, and I just push. I'm kind of like stuck in fear, and I push like that, and I feel a little vibration in my lower back, and I'm thinking to myself, did that just happen? I push again, and I feel another vibration in my lower back, and by this time I'm like, something's in bed with me, and I push really hard, and then I get buzzed, thrown out of the bed, thrown through the TV, thrown through the wall, and landed in the living room on my hands and knees. And I remember picking up the carpet and watching it with my fingers, watching it fall back to the ground, going, what just happened? And then I woke up. And then when I woke up from that experience, I felt like an evolutionary blunder. I said, all my life I've been preparing myself, knowing ETs are real, and then I finally had my first experience and I blew it. And I vowed to myself, I will never let fear get in the way of me evolutionary, contacting higher beings And so after that, I started working on myself and my own fears.
Absolutely. We all say that. James, when I had my, I had a physical experience with a being, you're in such a awe and shock, even if you know they exist and everything, when you have these encounters, even in an astral or a dream, you think you're ready. And what's interesting, and I want to ask you, James, because Josh, we've had a lot of guests come on here that have had astral projection experiences. And Josh, what have they all said about how it felt at first? What have they said?
Like a dream.
And that, it was uncomfortable. They
Hmm.
were afraid. They thought they were dying. The feeling, they said, it was like electricity taking over their body, and describing it as, lack of understanding of their soul separating from this physical vessel. So with that, James, when you first started having these astral experiences, were they pleasant the first couple times? How did you feel about that?
I was in a state of fascination. I was looking forward to every night as an adventure, and I've had nothing but unreal, beautiful experiences. Even when the times when like my own fears set in, if I was in that paralysis state and I knew my body was asleep, um, I would hear, like, I would hear things, but I knew it was from studying the book, The Psychic Explorer. I knew I was creating them, and then so I would just vibrate myself out of that and wake up, and then everything would be fine. There was nothing to be afraid of.
That's good. So for the most part, overall, you had pleasant,
Oh yeah,
experiences. And
oh
a
yeah.
big part of that, Josh, he was studying this book that was the guideline and the tools to do these things, where a lot of the people, yes, the Psychic Explorer, where a lot of
What?
the people we've talked
So,
to, Josh, they didn't have something like that. And maybe that's why they had that disconnect, not understanding it.
what
Right,
Wow.
year did
right.
this book come out?
1988.
1988. Ah, the year I was born.
Wow.
Oh man.
That says something right there. Wow. So, yeah, and a lot of times I just want to remind everyone out there, everything we need to know is already here. It's already here. It's all around us. It doesn't need to be brand new for it to be valuable information. Some of the greatest things you could ever read or find go back a very long time. So, that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
Wow, 1988. So,
yeah.
yeah, James, with these experiences and progressing, when did you, if you want to get into, when did you start to actually, get more in contact with these things, all sorts of things that we're going to be talking about? And more importantly, what were some of the messages, intents? How did you continue this journey and go from occasional astral projection, kind of not knowing what's going on, but figuring out, to a point where you're, meditating and trying to build a relationship with
Right.
these beings?
Right. So right after that experience that I just talked about, I said I would never ever make that mistake again. So maybe a few days later, I'm dreaming, and a lot of times during that time, I would either go to sleep and witness myself leaving the body, or I would go to sleep and dream, and then wake up in that dream and realize that I'm dreaming and be out of the body. So this is one of those experiences. The next experience with another being or a ship was, I just happened to be walking around in a dream and stopped and realized I was dreaming. And I looked up and I saw a UFO that was shooting down rainbow colored beams of light. And I was conscious enough to remember that I'm never going to make that mistake again. And I raised my arms towards it in the dream, where upon it started coming closer towards me, and it started speeding up coming at me. First thing that I thought to myself was, oh my God, it seems going to crash into me. But then I said, you know what? I'm out of the body. There's nothing that can hurt me. I'm a light being. and I kept my arms up, and I invited it to come. And this UFO silver disc came, and it went zhoo, and it got sucked into my heart, and I began feeling that peace, that oneness that I remember from my first experience, and then I just slowly woke up.
Wow.
Mm.
So very powerful astral projection, lucid, like beyond lucid dreams. You know, these are astral experiences, not just
Right.
random silly dreams of you with your high school friends, you know, at a party
Right.
or something. You know, it's powerful stuff, and these dreams come with emotional effect, do they not? How did you feel after having these experiences? You know, how did that affect your life and what you were going through?
It was a confirmation that I'm on the right path, that I'm feeling the right, my energy's right. And shortly right after that experience where the UFO got sucked into my heart, I was my next experience with extraterrestrials or any otherworldly beings. I was flying around through the sky, totally realized I was out of by just having fun, and I saw a UFO, and I thought that it was the same UFO it looked like that came to me. So I went right through its hull, and there standing, and I remember landing inside this UFO and seeing about 15 all humanoid light beings. They were all light beings, looked like their bodies were made of light, but they had a kind of energy, kind of silver suit on, and they all radiated this oneness and peace to me. And then I just woke up. So I've always think that that first experience, my first to a higher dimension, it has guided me through all my experiences with extraterrestrial beings and otherworldly beings, because I've always been anchored and been able to remember that deep connection and radiate it back with them, you know,
Wow.
throughout my journey.
Did these light beings, did they give you any information, messages? Did you learn anything about where they're from, who they are, and what do they want with you?
Not at that time, no. I was just I just woke up, and I was really, really just in tune with that, that higher feeling, and
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes when we wake up from when I wake up from these experiences, it's like I'm going walking around like in fallout for days, like feeling like I'm dreaming, and the energy really kind of sits with you for a while, you know.
Yeah, that's a sign
Wow.
of, the emotional aspect of, Josh, I'm sure you've had powerful dreams where you wake up and, they stick with you, they linger with you.
Yeah,
Dreams that don't mean
absolutely.
anything, you forget them, right?
Right.
There's no
There's a reason why
emotional.
you're remembering.
You're
Right.
like, well, that was a crazy, stupid dream. I'm gonna go back to life. But when it's something like that, and it's very, very powerful. And so this went on for a while in the astral
Right.
realm, within dreams, everything you've described now. At what point did that line that separates the astral and the physical and other densities and dimensions, as you kept growing, you kept practicing, you kept meditating, and I'm sure we'll talk about this. One of the awesome things about, when I first started talking to James and stuff in some of the first videos, he had an altar set up, and a
Hmm.
really beautiful, amazing altar. And that's where he was getting a lot of these energetic orbs and other things like manifesting out of his hands. It's wild. It's absolutely crazy. And we'll have pictures going all through this, all right? But so as you kept doing this and you kept practicing your
Right.
spirituality and trying to grow, at what
Right.
point did that realm start to bleed over into this physical world?
Beautiful, beautiful question. You just enlightened me because I've always spoke about this experience. Well, what happened was I did that for many years, and I believe in about 2004. One of my favorite teachers is a woman named Barbara Hand Clow. She's a shamanic healer, a shamanic teacher. She's written many books. Barbara Hand Clow. She was doing a workshop in Lilydale, which is not too far from here. And so I signed up for it. And what she was doing was teaching how to access 9 dimensions of consciousness. And she was so, all my out of body experiences, all these things I would talk about, not really too much, but, a lot of people don't really understand. But so anyway, I went to her workshop and I met her for the first time, which was like the highlight of my spiritual career. And this woman, she's able to channel different past lives. And she was channeling one of the past lives from her book of a Native American shaman. And she went into trance. She told everyone, get prepared, do what you do, create a circle. She went into trance. She blew out the smoke. And she started creating a sacred space and telling us what beings are coming into the room. And this was the most amazing, craziest experience I've ever had with a human being. Immediately after that, it was a sunny day. Fog surrounded everything. Everywhere we were outside, there was this deep fog. And afterwards, when I talked to her, this woman's eyes were changing as she's talking to me, shifting, and she had a wobble to her that she didn't had previously. She never had. And it was the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing I ever seen. And at that workshop, there was 3 people there who had my same birthday, 122. Her husband was 122. And we all held hands and said a prayer for the earth. And then we all took pictures. And then I was there for a few days. So someone got the pictures developed and showed me one of the pictures. And there was these balls of light and around me in those pictures. So I was just like, oh, it's Lilydale spirits. They say spirits. It's probably Lilydale. So it just so happened that after that experience, after that grouping, I'm from Buffalo. I was living in Texas. So I flew back to Buffalo for the workshop, flew back home to Texas. And this is how kind of spiritual energy works. With me, it's through coincidence. Like as soon as I land and get home, one of my friends says, hey, can we come over and hang out? I said, sure. So they come over and they have a camera and they're like, we've been taking pictures all the time and we want to take some pictures. I'm like, okay. So they took pictures. Sure enough, these balls of light were in my pictures. And I'm like, this is a weird coincidence. So I went and bought my own camera. At that time, I had an altar in my apartment in Texas, just dedicated to every religion, every spiritual experience. Like even if I'd have an out-of-body experience, I'd go outside and find a few rocks and place them on the altar, and I grab crystals and put them on the altar. Well, I grabbed my own camera, bought one, and it just so happened to be Christmas morning, I think it was, where I put my camera, made a little pedestal, and I said, if you're real, show me a sign. And I pushed the button, waited 10 seconds, and the flash went off. And sure enough, above my altar was a ball of light posing with me.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful
awesome.
photo. And, it would have been one thing. You could have chalked it up. Well, it's a coincidence. It could have been this. It could have been that. But that was the first time. That one right there. Now, what started happening again and again to the point that you started to figure, these things out. And one other thing I want to mention is the altar and what you were describing, not just the all religions and faiths and things like this, but even, a rock that you felt was, special or unique,
Right.
any sort of object that is valuable. So for people out there, try it. Collect things that are meaningful to you. They don't need to necessarily be religious relics, just things that have sentimental mental and powerful feelings to you, put them together and see what you can come up with. That's amazing. Yeah, so how did these things progress? And that photo is absolutely amazing, and it's just one of thousands you have. And then that one, it was one single one. So
Right.
how did things progress from that point moving forward?
So I said, wow, this is really real. So so it really inspired me to figure out that these balls of light are really sentient. So every now and then during that time, I would think about an orb or a ball of light, an orb we'll call them, and I look at the clock and it would be like 1:22. So I say, okay, let's take a picture. Boom, the orb above the altar. Then like the next day I'd say thank you. And then the next day, I think about the orb, look at the clock, it'd say 11:11. I said, okay, let me put it on take a picture. Boom, orb sitting right there over the altar. I began to call these pictures confirmations. And then I began to get the feeling of when it was time to do a confirmation. And I'd say, okay, it's time. And then I go and take a picture. And so I continually started posing with these balls of light over the altar with as many different cameras as I can. So I use about 5 or 6 different cameras over the course of the next few months of taking these pictures. And then I said, well, let me maybe start going outside and looking for sacred spots or sacred areas or energy, and then see if I can get them to manifest there. So eventually that started happening. I was using at the time like dowsing rods or something, and I found a place, and then I would clear it in my own natural way and ask the beings. And so what it was starting to feel like is that these beings wanted me to help show them to the world. It was starting to feel like I was starting to see things that were just like amazing. And especially when you crop these orb pictures, when you zoom in on them, I would see, like you said, like all these different beings. And so that one particular area I went to, I asked them to show themselves. Let's reveal yourselves to the world. And that picture is came out all these beautiful different colored lights. And when you zoom in, there's nothing but littered with beings of all different descriptions.
Yes, these it's the synchronicities too. That's a big part of this. And what you're talking about zoomed in, when you really start to expand some of these objects, you get to see them on a molecular level, broken down, and you kind of start to see, and these energies resonate a lot of different shapes, beings, characters, like the one I was talking about, where it clearly looks like some sort of character with a bird's beak. Then you have other ones like that rainbow, where it's like every color you could possibly imagine in there. It's phenomenal. And just recently, my big sister Elena posted a photograph of the universe seen in a different light spectrum and more of the galaxy. And James, that's what it looks like. That's what science is proving. And it was every color you could think of and nothing but little dots and speckles. And Elena
Wow.
mentioned in her travels, that's kind of the way, she viewed the universe from an outside perspective, and it's interesting that you say that about some of these orbs and how they can kind of look like that, because these orbs seem to be connected with everything else, which leads me to my next question. James, what do you think these orbs are, man? What are orbs? And Josh, you can piggyback off of that too. What are these things? What are orbs?
Well, when I first started discovering them, um, what I noticed is that when you zoom in on some of them, there's faces. Like I was like, wow. Like I still remember zooming in. Like I took a picture in my apartment, and there was nothing in the picture but a little blue dot now down next to my leg. And when I zoomed in on it, there's a smiley face there. So I'm like, So I began researching these guys and started zooming in on them. And the only thing that I can really think that they are is perhaps anything non-physical. Now, now that could mean extraterrestrial up in a craft that leaves its body and comes down. It could be my sister sleeping in the room next door, out of her body, coming in the backyard, taking a picture with me. It could be my animal. It could be a deceased animal, a deceased relative, a spirit guide, anything you could think of, elemental beings, anything you could think of that's non-physical. Now, what really threw a wrench into that was when I took a picture of myself and a ball of light appeared above me with the word love in it.
Yes, I've seen that one. Yo, this one is wild, wild, Josh, for real.
Wow.
Inside this orb, it's cursive. It's like a cursive, and it says love inside of this orb. It's absolutely insane. And
Wow.
yeah, I agree with James. I believe these orbs are some sort of energy, whether it's our energy. Now, this is a good point. James, do you think sometimes these things are coming from you, or are they external, or a little bit of both?
Yeah. It's a little bit of both, but in my own studies, like I really did try to research and study this because it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. So so I've studied it enough to see things coming out of my body, and I notice when I'm in a state, like when I do take pictures, I usually get into a loving state. Think about the love and the light that comes from everything and the oneness. And a lot of times the orbs will be centered around my heart. Now, and also I discovered too that they like positive energy. Like I started experimenting. Like I would be in a group of friends and take a picture of myself, and all the orbs in the room would be in my body, and I'd be right next to other people filled with these little balls of light. So I started to maybe gather up that they enjoy positive energy and loving frequency, which is why they would appear on the heart also in a lot of pictures.
And you were saying groups, collective consciousness of people enjoying one another and coming together and celebration and
Right,
happiness is
right.
powerful.
That's right.
And
That's right.
that manifests actually physical energy. We're just not able to see in that light spectrum because, James, this is a good question. Have you seen these with your own eyes?
Yes, this is what happened one time. I had a camera in my hand on, okay, ready to take a picture. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw a little spark. And so immediately I just took a picture. Sure enough, it was a ball of light, a little orb. So I've had sparks of light all my life, even in front of my vision, these little sparks of light. And now I realize that these are these balls of light, these orbs.
Wow.
Hey,
Now,
James, I have a quick one, Rob.
Mhm.
Have you ever experienced any physical change while seeing an orb, i.e., like a cold spot?
Oh, you mean on my body?
Yeah.
Um,
Or
not.
just in the room, like temperature change.
I never paid attention. I never really paid attention to the temperature, or I do know from my own experiments though, if I'm not in a very good mood, or if I'm maybe emotional about an issue or something happened, and I try to take pictures, I get nothing. Like there might be one or two in the distance, but as soon as I start, get back and meditate and bring my feelings back to my center, and then open up to the universe and take a picture of, then they start to manifest more. So it's very really really beautiful work to be done.
that's amazing. And so, no, as Josh was saying, no cold spots, nothing like that.
No.
Do you, for example, James, with me, when thunder and lightning storms, when they're on the way, not here, but on their way, I get a sensation of cobwebs all over my body. I feel that electricity. That's the best way I can describe it. Sometimes when UFOs are around, I can feel them through the same kind of feeling of cobwebs all over my body. Sometimes in situation when there's orbs in photographs, paranormal investigations. Have you had any sort of sensation like that in these situations? Even goosebumps, you know?
I mean, usually with me, my experiences, physically, like I could feel, when I get into heightened states of consciousness, I could feel wind. Like I could feel like almost like it's like encouraging me, or the elements are encouraging me to bring out this energy, you
Like a
know.
vortex pulling you in, that
or
kind of
or
wind?
or or more like an inspirational wind, like just like a natural breeze,
Okay.
right at the perfect moment. You know what I mean?
Wow. That's
Um,
incredible. And go ahead,
James,
Josh.
how heightened was the activity you had after you built an altar?
Oh, it grew. It grew. We grew together, and the altar grew with us. And I would so eventually I started cropping these um these orbs. And what I mean by cropping is I began zooming in on them, and then
Mhm.
not only looking at them, but then saving that picture and getting it developed as a 4 by 6 picture where I could hold a ball of light right here in my hand. And then I would notice that I would take a picture, and the ball of light would be looking at itself laughing.
Absolutely right. We have the photographs. We're showing them now. These are photos with him holding an actual physical photo of these orbs, blown up, zoomed in, made into a picture frame, holding them, and then them appearing, looking at themselves. Oh, that's how we look in the physical world. Whoa!
Yeah, yeah.
We look a lot better in our density, man. We got to lose some density. Our density's getting a little heavy there. That's awesome, man. That's so cool. And Josh has a big background in the paranormal, doing a lot of paranormal research. And Josh, we heard our ideas about orbs. Do you have anything to add on to orbs and what they are and what do you think's going on with them?
Um, Matter of fact, when I was a ghost hunter, we actually referred to what we saw as orbs too. So it's kind of funny how it circles into both sides of paranormal and extraterrestrial. That's why I asked you about cold spots. We also picked up that we could use a Geiger counter when we saw them, and there would be a change, usually a temperature change.
That would
Wow.
You know what? That's a good idea, Josh. For example, James, as you're doing these recordings and stuff and recording and snapping pictures, if you had some sort of electromagnetic field device, something that picks up on electromagnetic fields, and at the times when you would be capturing these things, if you had this device picking up on that energy, and at the same time you get the photo of this orb, and then in your
Right.
other hand you have a K2 meter, they're called K2s, it has lights on it, and you're getting a high ring at the same time having an orb shoot out of your hand. Whoa. I mean, you don't
Right.
gotta prove it
Hmm.
to me. I've seen thousands of your pictures, but it's just it would be just another synchronicity for you. That's what it's all
Correct.
about, right?
Right, right. It's all about that synchronicity. And I did a show for a Facebook group called Orbs Are Everywhere, and they're brought to us from Bridges Academy, a wonderful woman, Pat and Jean. And we worked after my workshop describing all the things that happened with these balls of light. One of their teachers came forward and said that what I'm describing is what is taught in advanced pranic healing, and that about how these energies are being manifested, and like we're like portals for the light beings to come into the world, and we're like super magnets to attract light beings from the outside world. So that was pretty interesting to really open my eyes a little bit.
Absolutely. We not only attract that energy, but we can also put out that energy, and that's where the healing comes into play of it.
We're
These
all energy, man.
yeah, these miracle healings. Miracles is just science people don't understand. It's taking this energy that is coming on us and transferring it onto an individual. Uh, we have the
Well,
power to heal one another.
yeah, I forgot about this, but the night so after I came back home from Lilydale, my friends came over with their camera. That night I had a bunch of friends over, right? And right before I decided to take my first pictures with their camera in Texas, as we're hanging out in my house, a dog came limping in, a little chihuahua came limping in my apartment. I don't know where it came from.
Oh,
And and all the girls in the there was like four or five girls and a couple guys, and they're like, oh my god, the poor dog, poor dog. And it just came to me, well, let me do my work on it, because I've been doing therapeutic touch and different healing techniques. I work in the medical field, so I was
yeah.
actually helping people with gunshot wounds and taking away a lot of pain before the nurse could give them their meds. So this dog I had worked on real quick, and next thing you know, this dog starts jumping around for joy, running up, and the girls started
Oh,
crying. The girls started crying, and then after the dog ran out the house, I said, "Well, let's take some pictures," and that was how it started rolling again.
oh, that's
That's
so.
awesome.
Speaking of a little chihuahua,
Aw, look
dude,
at him.
this is Big Pimpin', our little chihuahua. Say hi, little man. That's an
Aw.
adorable story. And after that stuff started really, picking up after
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And then so eventually what happened is I started cropping these orbs, and it started looking like fourth dimensional material. Like I would zoom in, like I would take two pictures, and you would see like a shadowy ball of light appear in first picture, and then that shadowy ball of light turning into a real ball of light in the second picture. So I would study what was manifesting before the fullness of the light and looking into it, and my eyes were just mesmerized. I was seeing all these different beings that kind of felt like they were the body of this dimension. Like it looked like literally, like I would take a cropped orb circle and take my finger and just trace a symbol, and that symbol would turn into a being, right? And then if I traced a big symbol, it would turn into a side profile of a being. And all these different beings would be like bird like with like feathered hair, or like a lizard being smiling, or like a hippopotamus being with a top hat on. You know what I mean? It would change to all these different things. And so what eventually happened is on one of these crop circles, I was playing with it, and I decided to draw a symbol for protection, a pentagram with a circle around it. And when I did that, I was waiting to see what I would see, and I saw flames coming up from the bottom with three serpents coming up. And I immediately felt divine feminine energy, the goddess energy, the triple goddess, the
Mm-hmm.
mother, the maiden, and the crone. And at that moment, it felt as if like all fear was dissipated, and I was within her grace, and I was in this magical state of just seeing life in everything for like 3 days. And then at that moment when I had that experience, I looked over to my altar, and there was these rocks in a certain formation that were like, that all looked at me and stood at attention. And then I looked to my left, and there was a wand that I had been building, and it stood at attention. And it was like all these things came together for that consciousness explosion. And so for 3.5 days, I was just dancing around, meditating in love, in tune with this unbelievable feeling of divine divinity.
That's amazing. And you bring up a good point. You're describing, and all these different things you're describing, a lot of them are found within just a single orb. It really kind of, everyone out there, we all know Dr. Seuss, right? Horton hears the Who. The Who's living on like a little tiny snowflake, but there's so much stuff going on in there. Would you say that these orbs, that's kind of what's going on? Although in our visible spectrum or our camera spectrum, that we are only like, when you look at a huge metallic object and the sun shining, and the only part of it you see is the sun glare of it. Are the flashes off of our camera? Are we only seeing a reflective glare of something much larger? Is it, what are your thoughts on that?
That could be right. Right. And when I started taking these pictures, I noticed that different groups of beings would be coming, um, and they would hang out with me for a few days. So when I had that experience when I was at, let's just say, at one with the divine feminine, I had a group of orbs that were all like, they look like a beige with sparkly blue eyes and fiery red hair female orbs. And then I had another group of male orbs, and they would always come in my pictures from different angles, but always be with me for that time. When I would look deeply into this material, what I did notice too is that when I would show other people, like, they would see what was within them. Like, if they had like a very positive attitude, they would start to see happy faces. But if they were more like a unawakened, just normal guy, they would see skulls and, oh my god, that's scary, that looks, you know what I mean. But the people who are on a positive vibration would see positive things, and I would see everything that they would see when they show
That's
them to me.
that's an interesting point, and you're absolutely right. That it's, if you put out positive, that attracts positive. You put out negative, that attracts negative. The same laws of attraction applies to the laws of manifestation as well, right? So, unfortunately, this exists. So that's why we got to be careful with what we manifest, what we put out there, to make sure that we're not accidentally manifesting negative things and negative energies, because it will happen. Wow.
Yeah,
And
that it
Josh,
happened to me.
anything to add, or any
It's
insight
funny,
on
the
that?
whole positive negative, it goes into so many aspects of life, not just this. I
Yeah,
mean, even just look at your car, look at electricity, it's full
yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
It's a way of life living, not just to the spiritual extraterrestrial, but to every aspect of life. No doubt about it. That's amazing. And James, uh, and he has a couple photos as well that kind of struck me as interesting. I've seen photos with 3 to 5 orbs in it. James literally has photos where it's uncountable, like
Right.
the universe of orbs. Like, you can't, like, you could have a fan blower with dust and still not have that many orbs.
Right. Right. Right.
It's insane. And not only that, he'll be standing there, and it seems like they're, it's hard to tell in a single photo of how they were moving, but they kind of do seem like they were kind of going towards the camera from James, like just kind of passing through towards, and phenomenal stuff. And we'll definitely show a bunch of them. There's a lot of them. I want you to talk a little bit about that, but also the 2 videos you sent to me. I definitely want to talk about them, James, because these objects were way up in the sky. These weren't photos of these were physical lights. You saw those
Right.
with your own eyes.
Right.
So, talk a little bit about these swarms of orbs, and then
Okay.
transition into those videos, and which they were more recently, and what you're doing, and
Right.
continue it.
So at that apartment in Texas, like I said, I started going outside. One of those days I went outside, I made a makeshift pedestal for my camera, put it on 3 pictures auto, and before I did that, I took a picture of myself, and there was nothing around me. And then I took a picture just of the sky, and there was like thousands of orbs in the sky. So I said, I wonder if I could pull these guys down to me and get them in my picture. So what I did was what I normally do is create a sacred space in which where I become still, I breathe, take a few deep cleansing breaths, then I send my awareness down into the earth, down through the crust into the core of the earth, exist there as this light, acknowledging the earth, then shooting back up through the earth, up straight through the sky, through the atmosphere, into the heart of the Milky Way galaxy, and then establishing myself there, and then saying a few words of peace and coming right back down to my body, and then taking a picture. And when I did that, those balls of light started moving gradually to where they surrounded me. And that was one of the pictures where my first picture, which I call spread shots, where there's like thousands of them around me.
It looked like a spiritual orb buckshot.
Right.
Just tons of it looks like an orb buckshot. That's the only way I can describe it. Phenomenal pictures. And Josh, have you in the paranormal, right? You've had a handful of them. Did you ever have a situation where, like, in a room where you just had tons of them like that, or outside?
Yes, but in the paranormal world, that's actually was always like bad news for us because it usually turned out to be dust orbs, which are fairly common, but you can tell the difference between the dust orb. I mean, for one, it will always appear gray and dirty when you zoom in on it.
Now this is interesting. Josh has not seen the photos that we're showing right now in the live, but James, and I've seen James's. Go over some of the colors that are found in these orbs.
Well, I mean, what do you mean by go over them? Like, there's many.
That's what I mean. I didn't really see any gray ones.
Ask this way, we could. What is the most color? You see the most frequent.
Yeah.
Well, usually, no. What's funny is, like, I'll be talking to somebody about orbs, and like the other guy the other day, he said he had a green orb, and I was like, really? The next few days, I had green orbs, And then one other day, a woman, we're talking about yellow orbs. The next thing you know, I got yellow orbs. So they're very conscious, and like I think they hear through me, So like they are very much aware of what's going on, And I'm just one of the things too I just discovered that I'm not sure many people know about, right? Is I'll take a picture of myself, right? And let's say in that shot there's 1,000 orbs, right? And they all look white, right? White light. If on that camera, when I take my phone and put it on camera or video and go to record what's on the camera, all of a sudden they all turn into colors on my phone. And yeah.
Very interesting.
It's very, 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 very. There's a couple, and then it looks really, really pretty. But a lot of times I get just a different variety of colors. Now, in my experience, when I see a pink orb, for some reason I think it's an ancestor or like a grandmother or just a feminine energy, but maybe like a relative or something.
I think you've seen some orange ones too, right? Mm-hmm. Orange.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's orange. Yeah, and I've seen a lot of like in the beginning, I was wondering about the colors, and the furthest that I stretched my imagination is probably to maybe think that they are from like different star systems. Like blue felt like Pleiades, red felt like Sirians, purple Arcturians, or Andromeda, So because at the time I was asking any beings who are willing, want to help raise the consciousness of the planet, come and reveal yourself. So recently I actually got a purple one.
That's interesting. I always thought them to be such as like auras,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
the color wise.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, with what you were saying, offering, and there are a lot of beings out there that are coming here and in an astral way and trying to help raise this planet's frequencies. They're not coming here physically. They're doing this through their astral body, the same way you're doing it through your astral body. They're doing it too, except
Right.
they're masters at it, and we're just a baby civilization figuring it out. But
Right.
one interesting thing is, I think some of the different colors could be due to their frequency and resonance. What James was saying was a great point. Maybe they're coming from different areas. Maybe this star system is within the, ninth density. Maybe this one's in the seventh density. Maybe this one's the fifth density. And how they appear when they're in this density, maybe that has something to do with the colors, sort of how like skin colors on a lot of planets where there's blue extraterrestrials, it's due to the air composition of that planet, which causes their skin to be blue, and etc. And it's kind of that way throughout the universe. So that's a great point, James. That's really, really interesting. No doubt about it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, one thing I definitely want to talk about, save the best for last. Yeah, some of your CE5 stuff, yeah, you have a lot of photos of orbs shooting out of your hand, holding them, thousands of them floating around, etc., etc., etc. Amazing energy, the right intentions, the synchronicities of when you see these things and the story behind it. Now, these videos you have of this, CE5 that you were doing in this contact, and this video is wild. These lights are up in the sky and they're flashing, and then they'll be over here and flashing.
Right.
And with this, you were seeing it with your eyes versus the orbs taking a picture. Every now and then out your peripheral, you would see an orb flash, the corner of it. But with what you caught on video here, you saw this with your eyes. Can you tell us more about, the first video, the first time you had this experience, and then go in a little bit about the second time?
Okay. So eventually, I learned in the year 2020, I think it was, about Dr. Stephen Greer and his CE5 protocols and stuff, and how to call ships, which is really fascinating. I never heard anyone actually teaching people how to call extraterrestrial ships. Now, throughout my out-of-body experiences, throughout the years, what I've been doing is making contact with different ships. Like, I'll be out of the body, and not only was I seeing the craft, but I was merging with them. On one particular experience, I was out of the body and looked up and asked for a ship to appear, and the ship appeared, and I raised my arm up, and it come down and merged with me. And next thing you know, I'm riding around in a chariot, floating around the sky and the asteroid, blasting Red Hot Chili Peppers and whatever music I want to play.
That's
and then
that's awesome. That's so cool.
And then so a lot of my recent extraterrestrial experiences when it comes to out of the body are me merging with these ships. Like the one I had within the past week, I was out of the body and a ship came down, and it was a little tiny little foil looking ship, and it merged and it landed on my feet. And in order for me to fly with these things on my feet, I had to become perfectly still and be perfectly at will with myself, and not be just thinking, but just will myself here. So it was actually teaching me to be still and how to like harness this energy in my dreams. So what I discovered was in 2020, I was like, well, let me try these Dr. Stephen Greer techniques. And so he had a meditation. I downloaded the app. I downloaded the tones. I got some walkie-talkies. I got a light, a laser. And so what I started doing was I started doing the CE5 process, looking for a sign. And then if nothing happened, I just take a few pictures. I did that for 2 weeks until the first night I did it again. And I had something appear in the sky. And I was just like, wow, let me, I
After
don't know
2
what made me
weeks,
grab
you
it.
said it
After
took 2 weeks.
It took 2 weeks.
That's
of
important.
good.
Just because you don't get it on the first try Don't stop, just keep at it, right?
Right. And after
Wow.
2 weeks, the funny thing is I had a friend there that night that was with me, and and I'm like trying to show him, like, dude, there's something there, and he's like, he just don't even care, he's just like whatever. And then he eventually went home, and then when he went home, that's when they really started to communicate with me through the flashing of the lights.
Wow. And it's incredible. Absolutely incredible
And
video.
also during that time, those 2 weeks of doing that CE5 work, I was taking pictures in my yard at night, and I had got some beings that I had never seen before that were mind blowing.
Wow. Wow. So it was almost by, focusing on that, it was opening up more doors in what you were normally doing, expanding.
You see it moving, the flashing light? I'm about to signal it. I don't know, it could be a satellite, but the way I feel right now, I don't think it is. Because there's a couple things in the sky right now, flashing at the same time over here. My friend just left, and we were trying ET contact, but I didn't feel he was ready for it and was really into it, but I got into it. And I got two things traveling across the sky after I seen a bunch of stuff tonight in the sky. He wasn't even looking at the stuff I was seeing. Can you stop for us and show us your light? Thank you. Thank you. Let us see. Let us unite. Let us unite. It's so beautiful, that light. I've never seen anything like that. I look at the sky a lot, and it's not just, I don't know what it could be, but I'm feeling something. 'Cause there's a bunch of things in the sky right now, different areas. There's another one over there. There's one but right there coming where the trees are. And the way they pulse is not like an airplane. It's a longer pulse between. This one, I believe, show us, move a different way. Wow, it just moved. It just moved. Go to the left. It's going down. It was just going right. It's going down. So show us how you move. I don't know if you guys can even see this. Show us two of you. This thing is not moving. This thing is staying right where I am. It's not going like a normal airplane would. It's coming back. It's moving left and it's, wow. Look at this. Show us some real light. So beautiful. Come. Join my hand. Hold my hand. Hold all of my hands as I stand. Look, it's gone. It came back. This is amazing. I've been doing this all my life, making contact with out of the body with beings, and I've been, did that so many years, and then, all this ET stuff is happening, and I'm really excited to come out here and try this stuff. And oh my God, there's a bunch of things in the sky, at least two or three, but I'm focusing on this one because it's not going like a normal airplane. It just disappeared. There it is. So I'm gonna try this. I've been tuning into these guys a long time, and I feel it right now. And I just love it. I'm up right now for a reason. I haven't been to sleep. I've been feeling their energy. I manifested things. Like I said, I feel a lot of energy coming back. I feel like uniting the whole cosmos and everything else. And let's awaken. I just really feel like I want to take this time right now and be personal with them and send go.
Wow, and that's an incredible video. And the second time, so you have these crafts which are dimensional, and it's interesting that you were talking about being connected. And Josh and I, we've both heard of a lot of these craft
Absolutely.
being operated telepathically, like you are one with the ship. We've heard this over and over again. And a lot of your experiences, you're describing that oneness. Just because it's up there or because it comes down to your feet, some of these things are dimensional crafts. They're, the Merkaba energy of actual beings manifesting themselves, and they appear as these, orb light crafts, whatever we want to call them. And it's so interesting that you have this connection to, like, whether they're up there or coming to you. It's this connection which kind of explains some of the technology and the science behind how some of these craft operate, and orbs,
Right.
and what they are.
Right. And
It's
all
amazing.
that too is mentioned in here. It just happens to be in here. He says you will go nowhere in the universe until you have without consciousness, power, and will. You know, you won't be
Absolutely.
able to, and flow and balance and beauty.
Yeah, 1988. That Psychic Explorer. Everyone definitely check that book out. And now, so you caught these things going on, and then you have a second video, right? So
Right.
that
Right.
first one's absolutely phenomenal video, and it happened again. And in the first video, you could tell this was the first time you were having this encounter. You were a little excited up. Now, I want to say before showing the second part of the video, you're more aware of what these
Right.
things are. You're more calm and stuff, and I can tell, and it's really putting on a show for you. So if you would like to talk a little bit about that before we play that footage for everyone.
Right. So after the first ship appeared, exactly 22 days later, it appeared again in the sky, and it was very, very, very. It's very distinctive with the light. The light, when you see it, it feels like it's alive. It doesn't feel artificial. The light feels like it just looks and feels differently. And so it appeared again, and I was just outside, just really, I don't know if I was really doing CE5 when it appeared the second time. I think I was just outside relaxing and in an open state, and then all of a sudden I look up and there she is again. And I'm like, oh, let me get my phone. And then I start saying, hey, is that you? And sure enough, it got brighter. And I'm like, and then I start doing whatever I did in the video.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like, for example, when we see lightning, and none of us think, well, that lightning is intelligence. We just think of it as a natural occurrence, cold and warm heading together, the ionosphere creating lightning, etc. But when you see these things, is there a sense of intelligence? Is that what you're picking up on? Is it intelligence?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Like, it's just unreal because as we as conscious explorers, we stare at the sky a lot, to the point where our necks are hurting sometimes, and
Yeah.
but like when this really appeared, when this light appeared, actually when it appeared, there was other things going on that I really couldn't even, like, I just focused on that. It's like as soon as it appeared, all these other lights appeared too, but I was just focused on that and using my laser pointer to say hi and stuff. And you know, it to me it felt like you know, it's just amazing. Like, and then like when it wasn't pulsating, you could see like a dim light up there. You
I
could still
saw
see
that.
it.
It was still there, just very faint and dim. You can, because you have high exposure. It's nighttime. You're recording on a phone. Yeah, it's only so much you can get, but there is a light gray dim circle there, and then you see it really come alive, and then it moves over like
Right.
50 to
I asked
100
it.
feet.
Yeah, yep. I asked it. I said, show us. I said, if you're real, move, and then it moved, and I was like,
Yep.
wow. And then I was like, and then I said, thank you, and then the light was like a soft, real slow light, and it went back where it felt like it said, you're welcome.
Yep. And you had your laser, but something as well, and I tried to do the same. You weren't shining your laser on them. You were just
No.
shining near them, and you were kind of moving it around, playing with them, and that would really get them stirred up. And Jeff Crawford did the same. It's the same technique. They don't shine it at them because they may think it's a weapon and take threat to it. But if you're just playing with them and having a little light show, they'll play along with you. Uh,
And that's what I
awesome
noticed
video.
in the video where I would turn the light on, and let's say I moved it down 90 degrees and turned it off. As soon as it turned off, the light would appear right where it was the laser was at that last point.
Yeah, it's a little game they got going on.
Hello. We are so ready. We are so ready for you. You come closer. Thank you for coming to visit again. Look at this. Show us a nice bright light. I'm up near my house a little bit. I got my laser on me. Thank you. Oh man, there's another light to the east. Thank you. Thank you. Look at this. The way it pulses, unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's disappeared right now. Hold on, wait for it to come. There it is. Thank you. I'm gonna get my laser for it. Turn out the lights a little bit for him or her. I had, just like I said, I just used my astral body. There we go, right up here. Thank you. Should I do it again? I really turned into some kind of octopus something with a flasher that went up so high. I was like it was beautiful. I've turned into so many natural things on the astral plane to attract them. Oh man, this is unbelievable. Again, every time I come out here, show us more. Show us. Well, I see you. I see you. I see you. I see you. Come closer. Can you come down? Well, come down. Been waiting a long time for this. Thank you. Come down. I can understand. If you come down. You guys, I've been working with this a long time. And we're ready. We as a planet are ready. We are a planet as ready. We're ready for this. Can you come down closer? I'm gonna stop talking out loud because I can connect telepathically. Okay? But it's just exciting. Show us a constant light. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Where are you at? There you go. Let's see your ship. I want to see it. It looks so beautiful from here. I want to see it closer. I see you. I see you. There you go. Is there different ones? I give you permission to show me more. I give you permission. I'm waiting for the whole sky to light up, to be honest with you. The way I've been feeling lately, it's just with everything that's going on. Look at it right here. Come back this way. Come back this way. Well, let's see if we can get it to change its flight path. You want to go down this way? So anyway, there's 3 modes of flashing lights, and right now it's just a low, it's a dull light, but I can see it up there, and it's just come closer. Let's show it. Come closer. I'm gonna do what I do again real quick. It's okay if you just want to show us this right now. We understand. We're ready. We as a civilization, as a species, we are ready. We are sick of what's going on. We're ready for the truth. We're ready to grow in the new world and produce a new light with our stellar brothers and sisters. We are ready. We're ready. The earth is ready. Our solar system is ready. So we're ready. They just disappeared. Somebody came outside. Love and light.
Absolutely phenomenal. So to kind of wrap things up a little bit, James, what are you up to these days? Have you had any experiences recently, etc.?
Yes.
And yep.
My most recent amazing experience was I was out of the body in an apartment, and I was dreaming, and then I just woke up in the dream and realized I was out of the body. And at that moment, I stopped, and something felt different. Something felt like my consciousness was expanded, and I remember like my consciousness started moving everything in the house, and then I would stop, and I'd be like, "This is cool. This is weird. I got like these powers," and then I look and stop again, and like it felt like my consciousness was within everything. And then as I'm doing that, and I stop again, there's a knock at the door. And I go open the door, and there's this man, human, in a black suit, and he says, "You need to come with me." And I said, "Okay." He goes, "You need to come with me." I'm like, "Okay." So we go down into this vehicle, and we start driving through the city. And while we're going through the city, we're moving through traffic like it's not even there, like we're ghosts, and we're just going. And he turns to me in the car and he says, "You did it." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "The government has released its hold on humanity, and the Galactic Federation is ready to make contact with you." And I said,
Wow.
"Okay." I said, "Okay." So we get to this old building. We go in. I remember going down the stairs, and I'm like, "I'm gonna float down the stairs." Then I said, "No, I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna walk."
Where
So I
was
walked.
this old building? Really quick. Did you have an idea of where this old building was?
It
What
seemed like it was
city?
downtown Buffalo. It seemed like it was
Buffalo.
downtown Buffalo somewhere. Yeah. And so
Oh,
so we went downstairs, and we opened the door, and I went into a room, and this room was real dingy except for it had a white oval long table with all these different chairs that were empty around it, white chairs. And I noticed that everything was concave, everything was circular. Like there was no hard edges to these chairs or the table. And so I sat down and at the head of the table, and he goes, "Put these goggles on." And when I put this headset goggles on, in every seat was an extraterrestrial being that was non-human. They were beings that were all non-human. And it was the first time that I had ever been in the presence of such a exotic array of beings. The first being communicated love and light to me and it looked like a floating slice of purple light that had a velvety black outline around it, and around that black outline was sparks and fizzes, and for some reason the sparks and the fizzes emitted a peace, and I recognized it, and I went around each table and greeted each being in a way of universal love and light. And then
Wow.
after that, I just slowly was brought back to my body and woke up.
Now, now you said you put on goggles. Were these beings in a higher density, and did the goggles allow you to see within that density? Is that what
Right,
was
right,
going on?
right. Everything was there was no one at the table, but there was just empty chairs until I put
What
this headset goggles
now
on.
that was one being. Do you have some of the descriptions of some of the others if you can remember?
Right. One of the other beings looked like uh, it looked like a golden box with long deep sea crab arms, and it had a face that I could sense, but it was hidden.
Uh-huh.
And I felt that it had something connecting with time. It had something to do with time, as if like a clock became conscious.
So the face area was you could say it was almost pixelated or blurred out, hidden.
Right,
You couldn't
right.
really make it out,
But
but
it
you
was
know
weird because
something was
I
there.
yeah, I could feel it. It's hard to describe, but even though you couldn't see the face, you could feel it.
Wow. And
Almost like time. Like you don't see the face of time, but you know that it's there.
yeah, and any other descriptions of the beings that were there? It's fascinating.
Yeah, there was a third being that I make, and I'm it's been hard to capture that one. It was like something yellow, and almost like it's hard, it's hard to get that one. I have to probably go into a pretty good meditation to try to remember that one. But there was a bunch of them, and I made contact with them all, and conveyed a brotherly feeling of oneness with them.
And these, with dimensional beings, the shapes, colors, it can be very, very strange. Like outside of our ways of like, hey, this is how living things should be shaped.
Right,
Like it's
right,
so
right.
far outside of anything we can
Oh yeah, oh
comprehend.
yeah, oh yeah. And then so with my pictures, I was kind of prepared because that one picture I was telling you about, where you zoom in and see all the beings, it was the first time where I actually zoomed in on that picture with the orbs, and there was a being with looking up, or it had its eyes closed, and I suspected it was a female because it had long eyelashes, and it had a little smile, and it had an antenna going off its head to a little glowing ball hanging at the tip of it.
Wow. So that's another good description of weird, almost like the deep sea fish, Josh, with the
Right.
Right.
little ball hanging off. That's interesting. And there's a lot, and yet there's tons of different physical beings out there. But when it gets into the astral body, and some people, when we're in our astral body, we don't necessarily have to look like we do.
Right. Right.
Am I right? Like
Right. I've done
we
that. Yeah. I've
so
experimented. Yeah.
vice versa. I mean, you could have a Palladian or a being, a species from Orion or Andromeda come here in their astral body, and they might look like an elephant just because they want to.
Right. Right. And so there was another experience I had a couple years ago, before that last experience, where I was a lot of times when I'm having an out experience, for some reason, I think my guides like to play with me. I've been tested in all many ways. I can go on and on about all the tests that I've passed. But this one particular time, I was out of the body. Um, I was walking outside and I saw a UFO flying by, being escorted by military jets. And then I looked to my upper over here, and there was a UFO that shined a light at me, and it went and landed in my backyard where I was living. So I walk over to it, and sure enough, a platform comes down, and this being steps out of the UFO wearing a silver-colored suit, and it was big and green, about 12 feet tall, with a huge head, with these two long eye stalks. And it said to me that its name was this, and that it was from the Galactic Federation. And I said, my name is James Lindsay. I'm from the planet Earth, and I too am from of the Galactic Federation. And he smiled at me. He said, would you like to come on board? And I said, sure. So I start walking up to it, my merry self. And as I get closer to it, I'm very conscious. I'm like, wow, this guy's pretty strange. And as I get closer to him, I'm like, I'm getting closer to him. And then he sensed my little bit of quirkiness, and then he turned into a human with one green eye that was glowing. And we got aboard his ship, and then I was like, cool, man, let's go. I was cool anyway, don't get me wrong.
What was it, a form of mantis being or some sort of
No. It reminded me of that being from do you ever see that movie Explorers or something like that came out in the 80s with those kids that were able to go through space? Do you remember that there's a movie called something Explorers?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know which one. The young kids that go through it. It's an old one, kind of low budget, but yeah.
It reminded me of
Space Explorers.
that green being. There was a green being there, I think.
Okay.
I haven't thought about that for years. I didn't even make that connection, so I just verbalized it.
Some sort of green being.
Yeah, and he had big hands with rounded fingers, like
12 foot
the fingers
high.
were like club. Yeah.
And his eyes kind of came off like a crab, crab eyes.
Yeah, like a crab with stalks.
Wow, very interesting. That's awesome. That's wild.
So we went aboard his ship, and so he said, "Where in the universe would you like to go?" And I was like, "Anywhere. Take me wherever you like." He says, "Okay." So I feel the ship move, and we're going, and then I feel the ship stop. When the ship stops, I immediately turned invisible, but I was still there. And then he turned into a gas, and he said that we are in a system of the Pleiades, and in this system, humans turn invisible, and his species turns into gas. And we went down to this planet. He took me down out of the body, down into the planet, where there was these rat fox looking kind of conscious beings that were specialized in making something like a soap or something that you can only get from this planet. And we were talking telepathically, and he told me that humans are the cupids of this planet. So I would go into one of them, and then I would feel love, and then that being would feel love and look up at another being, and then I would go into the other being and look back at him and feel love, and those beings would become in love. And then I did that for a while before we went back up into the ship, and then I just woke up.
That's very interesting about what you were saying about, shifting. When you go there, sometimes in these planes are what we are kind of shifts as well. The same way they are shifting as well as coming here and taking different forms, vice versa. That's beautiful. And, getting to go there to play Cupid a little bit, that's really awesome. That's amazing. And, so to wrap it up, a lot of amazing stuff. I know it's only a tip of the iceberg. And, James, really appreciate you. I'm so happy. We've been friends for a while, and, you've really been at practice at it. And I love hearing your experiences and your knowledge and watching you communicate with these things and just trying to make people more aware and saying, hey, it's this easy. This is all you need to do. Check out this book, Psychic Explorer. Actually put it to practice and do it. That's all that it takes. And so with that being said, James, what's the best way people can reach out to you and get a hold of you?
The best way is through Facebook, where my name is James B. Lindsay on Facebook, and on TikTok, my name is James Lindsay's Orbs on TikTok, um, um, and and anyone could call me. I can give my phone number if you want, but I'm very freely available.
Yep, and I will have your information down in the description, so everyone go down there, make sure you check it out, reach out to him. James is a great guy, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. It's amazing stuff. Everyone out there, be on the lookout for new and up and coming episodes of We Are the Disclosure. Josh and I will have a lot more coming your way. And James, once again, just want to thank you and really appreciate you talking about your experiences. And I'm hoping that we can encourage some people to try out these things for themselves, see what they
That's
can
right.
get, right?
That's right. One of the things I forgot to mention too is a real quick Dr. I think his name is Dr. Emoto, the guy who discovered water crystals and how to change the frequency of water with positive intentions and negative intentions. I believe that, let's say you go outside and it's raining and you start to take pictures of yourself, if you project this energy of love, that the water actually turns into faces and life.
Wow. So
And the
that's
same thing with
amazing.
light. Same thing with light, so that we're changing everything.
Yeah, so put out love, all of us. That's why it's so important. We put out positivity. Be the change you want to see. Manifest it. Be aware of the energy you're putting out, because that's what you will attract. And tap into it and understand the universal consciousness. It's an amazing message. Thanks again, buddy. And
Thank you.
Josh and I, we really appreciate it. Awesome
Thank
Thanks for
time.
coming.
Thank you.
And yes,
Thank you,
everyone,
Josh.
hit that like button. Please subscribe. Leave a comment. If you love the photographs or you have questions, leave them down there. I'm sure James will hit you up in the comments as well. His information will be in the description, along with Josh, which Josh is running the We Are the Disclosure page on Facebook. And he's doing the Spotify, and our links are down there. The Order of Light merch store. We got a lot of different merchandise. We got Merkaba shirts.
Really?
So we're selling Merkabas out here. I know James knows all about that. And we got a bunch of great stuff. So I hope to see you all next time. Have a wonderful night. Thanks again. And we will see you next time. We Are the Disclosure.
Have a good night.
Great night. Have a good night. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to set a reminder for up and coming videos. If you have had an experience, please email us at orderoflight777@gmail.com or wearethedisclosure88@gmail.com. If you would like to contact our special guests, information can be found in the description. Make sure to check out the We Are the Disclosure podcast radio on Anchor FM. For additional information, socials, and online store, go to the Direct Me link in the description. Whistleblowers, experiencers, and contactees of all backgrounds, now is the time to come forward. Please subscribe, share, and give the video a big thumbs up. We are not waiting for the disclosure. We are the disclosure. See you next time.